Shalom, shalom. First off, I'm going to give all the honor, all the glory, and all the praise to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha, Kudash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, GMS, rule well and teach well, whose labors we have entered into. Shalom to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect, and to the brothers and sisters that may be tuning in, listening, and learning. May this lesson uplift your spirit. Uplift your spirit. This is the brother Halal from the Great Millstone branch of Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this lesson is going to be entitled, this truth teaches us to remain serious and adopt, a stoic mindset. As we've been nearing, the end of Babylon the Great, being in these last days, you've been seeing many brothers and, elders and even the apostles making videos, about how in these last days, we're going to have to maintain and adopt a very, serious and a stoic mindset, so to speak. And what does the word stoic ultimately mean? Definition right here, it says a stoic is a person who remains calm, rational, and unemotional in the face of pain, misfortune, or distress. And this is the mindset that has been adopted, by the men of the Lord. In order to serve Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, you must have a mindset similar to this. Remaining calm and unemotional in the face of misfortune and stress, and being serious, man. Not always, joking all the time, although there's a time and a place. Which, matter of fact, now that I said that, there's Ecclesiastes 3, and I started 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. Let's see, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. So there's a time, in a place for everything, and being that we're in these last days and that most people are about to lose their minds due to, the economic instability of Babylon the Great, seeing that we're in our captivity, the men of the Lord are to operate in a, very stoic, and serious mindset, man. Let's see, from there, let's get the book of, let's actually get Sirach, chapter 21, in verse 20, and it says, Salaki, it says, Sirach 21 and 20, it says, a fool lifted up his voice with laughter, but a wise man doeth scarce smile a little. So, fools, they're always in a happy spirit, always smiling, being jollittle. But a true wise man, rarely smiles, man. In my personal experiences, being around the many Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, the elders, man, Elder Uriah, Elder Malcolm, Elder Jeremiah, etc. One thing that you'll notice quickly is that, man, the elders, man, these men, these seasoned men that have been in the truth, that they'll smile and joke from here to there, but most times, man, they carry a very stoic mindset, man. Rarely you'll see a laugh or a smile come from any of them, And why is that? Because being in this truth, understanding that we're, in this captivity, it teaches you to adopt a very stoic mindset and to not invest ourselves in this place, man. I went on Google and I basically asked, I said, why do most wise or intellectual people tend not to smile that much? And the AI overview was the first thing that popped up. So it says, wise or intellectual individuals may smile less due to a deeper understanding of complex problems. And being in this truth, we indeed have a deeper understanding of complex problems, man. We understand who our enemy is. We understand that our enemy is ruling over us to this very moment. And we understand that the only way for him to be defeated and taken out of the way is for our Lord to return. Therefore, we must wait on him. That's why the scriptures said, occupy till I come, man. But it says what? It says wise and intellectual individuals smile less due to a deeper understanding of complex problems, leading to a more sober, analytical outlook rather than constant cheerfulness. They often prioritize authenticity over social necessities, with many viewing constant smiling as insincere or unnecessary. And in all actuality, especially as an Israelite man, constantly, smiling, trying to joke all the time, it is unnecessary. Not saying that there's anything wrong with it. The scripture says what? False balance is an abomination to the Lord. So, we're not just stone-faced, mean mugging all the time. We smile, really when we're amongst each other. Because I'll say first and foremost, man, when I'm not around the brothers, man, I have a very, straight face, around the people at the job, or really just anywhere else, man. The only time I really crack a smile is if I'm around the many y'all by Shemal Shah. When I'm lifted up by the Spirit and their words, man. But continuing down, it says, others may have high levels of focus, perfectionism, or even experience. Man, that's really the point. It says reasons for deep thinking and concern. It says a profound understanding of the world's complexities and challenges can lead to a more serious demeanor or even an increased risk of depression, lessening the urge to smile. And we understand that we're in this captivity, which leads to us having a more, serious, austere and stoic mindset, man. Understanding, the captivity that we're in, man. And why is that? Let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 1:17. It says, and I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also vexation of spirit. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth in knowledge increaseth in sorrow. And that's what it went about, and that's what it was talking about in this first paragraph, titled Deep Thinking and Concern. A profound understanding of the world's complexities, man. Understanding that this world is controlled by a bunch of, pedophile billionaires, that worship Satan and like to commit acts of cannibalism on fucking kids, man. Knowing that our food is poison, knowing that these devils are spraying heavy metals over us every day. Aluminum, strontium, lead, these chemtrails, man, fucking with our bodies, fucking with our cardiovascular system, man. So in much wisdom is much grief. And being in this truth and, knowing the realness of this world makes us appreciate Yahweh Bashemal Shai that much more and be angry at the oppression. Which leads me to Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 7. It says, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. So oppression makes a wise man angry. And if you're not angry at the oppression, that means that you're not wise, man. And that's these 2/3 out here. They're being oppressed, but yet they're not mad, man. Most of them are happy and content to be in this place, man. And if everything so-called went back to normal, was really, there was nothing normal about this place anyways. I mean, look who's at the top of the hierarchy. These satanic elite bankers and royal families, man. There was nothing normal about this place. But if things so-called went back to normal, these people will be happy as can be. They will forget about the fouls. They will forget about the atrocities that Esau Edom is doing. They will go about their day, man. But oppression makes a wise man mad, man. And we are laboring to be counted as worthy in the eyes of Yahweh Shemal Shai through understanding his wisdom and knowledge, man, which makes us adopt a stoic mindset, man. Being more serious, not always laughing all the time, man. And most importantly, it keeps us in the mindset of laboring, to be found as a faithful servant in the Lord's eyes, that we may be, taken out of here, you know, that the Lord may soon tell us, hey, come up hither into this chariot, man, Lord willing. So I end this off with 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and 15. Because when you learn the truth, when you adopt this stoic, serious mindset, this is your main goal. It's verse 15. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace might through the thanksgiving of many redound to the glory of the Most High, for which cause we faint not. But though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. And the outward man, represents ultimately these fleshly bodies, man. These sinful bodies that we inhabit. But the inward man, which represents the spirit, which can do no wrong, which is completely righteous, is renewed day by day. The more we fight this flesh, the more we adopt this stoic mindset, walking down that straight, narrow path, that position of difficulty. Verse 17, for our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal, man. And ultimately we're laboring for things that we cannot yet see. The Lord said what? Obey. How much more should ye obey in my absence, man? So we're laboring for the new kingdom to come, which we cannot yet see. But yet through adopting this stoic mindset, remaining humble, remaining serious, it really teaches you to keep your eyes on the prize and run that you may attain, so that we can enter into that rest, Yahweh Razah. But that was it. I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak, Wadash, the blindest of the apostles, and our elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Shalom, and I'll see you in the next lesson, Lord willing.